Hello and welcome to the Freedompreneur Show. I'm here with Roberto Paez, the conscious couple, a relationship coach. But we're going to talk about all sorts of things today. We're going to talk about his entrepreneurial journey into his fire starter program, which he's just been expressing and expressing and expressing for years. And I've been seeing his videos on Instagram, on Facebook. So make sure to go check him out. Roberto, tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah. Really grateful to be here. Really grateful for the opportunity to serve. My name is Roberto Paez. I'm one whole half of the conscious couple. My partner Amanda Rassam and I were in business together. We're relationship coaches. And really what we specialize in is we help powerful, high achieving women learn how to love and trust after life altering heartbreak. And we do that primarily through our fire starter program. So that's like a little intro and what we do and a little bit about who we are.
Cool. Was it always this case? Like when you started your fire starter program, was it specifically to high achieving women wanting, that went through heartbreak, that want to love and trust again? Was that your original demographic?
No. So originally it was for both men and women. And for the first few years of running it, we had both men and women go through the program, but we started to kind of notice a pattern and a theme. Like when you run a business a few times, like a really smart question that we started to ask ourselves are who are the people that we're noticing are getting the most value from the program, and who are the people who we like are loving to serve in this process, like the people that like give us energy, um and we just noticed a theme. We noticed that all of them were like powerful, badass women who were highly ambitious. They deeply wanted to experience more love and more trust, and all of them had some form of heartbreak in their life, whether that was childhood trauma, whether that was a trail of failed relationships. And so for the past year, we've really been focusing Firestarter on powerful, high achieving women. But with that said, it's really clear to me though that I'm here to help men as well. I love working with men. I love doing men's work. So I'm actually in the process right now of creating an offering specifically for men, because it's just really obvious to me that that's a big part of my purpose. Like I am here to help men become leaders. I mean, I have two sons, like the universe is telling me really clearly I'm here to bring up men, you know? So I'm now starting to listen and craft that, and I'll have an offering ready for some men as of next week.
Amazing. And I saw something just yesterday about you were doing, it was a picture of you with the grounded man, I think.
That's
But
right.
I saw something.
That's
Tell
right.
me about
Yeah.
that. What was that about? Because I've been involved with the
That
grounded man in Ottawa
that was
years ago.
yeah. Yeah, that was such a fun opportunity. I had the opportunity to do a teaching for 90 minutes to nine. Sorry, give me 1 second. Just Jordan's here. What's up, buddy?
Profound that my teacher told me.
Okay, buddy. Just after this podcast. Okay, not right now. I'm gonna be a while. So, can you give me some
Something
space?
profound.
I need some space. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Now
Something
now I'm kind of
profound.
curious.
Something profound that his teacher told us. Maybe you can share it with us.
Yo, Jordan, come back down here, man. Come tell us. because because man, like this is Jean-Luc. I don't know if you remember Jean-Luc, but he like heard what you said and he was like, well, if it's something profound that his teacher told you, then maybe we should just tell everybody. So come here, come tell us.
Okay, so so you know how you and my mom got divorced? I told my mom it was
Mm,
hard. It was really hard.
mm,
But then I was also remembering my teacher said this during class. She said, there's at the start of your relationship, there's a bunch of threads of string holding your relationship together. But one by one, the threads rip apart,
mm,
and then there's one thread left. And that one thread, you have to keep it strong and healthy. So you have to feed it. Feeding it is fun. You have to have fun with your partner
mm,
and be playful. And then give it sunlight is spend more time together.
mm,
And then one of the most important ones is be with each other every time you need each other. Okay, and so that is watering it, and so water your string, and then your string will get strong. But if you don't do those, eventually your string will get weaker and weaker and break apart.
Wow.
So that's maybe what happened. You didn't spend enough time with my mom. You didn't have fun with my mom, and all that.
Thank you for sharing that, man. That's like that is
Thank
deeply
you,
profound.
Yeah, my teacher told me that a while ago.
Thank you. That was awesome. I love you. We'll get you teaching. We'll get you teaching our fire starter clients.
Usually it was like a plant that was holding it up, but like, and also like they just said water it. I also made up like things. Got it. Yeah, but
I love that. Thank you for sharing that, big boy.
He's been listening to Dad.
Yeah, he's really special.
Oh
he's
my
really,
God.
really special. Thank you
That's
for
amazing.
the permission to do that.
God, that was just a perfect setup.
Yeah, totally.
Perfect.
Totally. So to bring it back to what we were talking about, grounded man.
Right. Yeah. Tell me
yeah, so
about what happened. What
I
was
had
that all about?
So that was, 90 minutes. And really, in any time I teach anyone anything, I don't ever want it to be an experience where I'm just in front of a room and talking at people. I really want people to walk away with an actual experience, something that is tangible, something that is undeniable, right? And the best way I've been able to experience that myself when learning or when teaching is through a term I learned last year called ontological learning, which is experiential learning. And the idea behind it is that you put yourself in a practice, in a situation where how you respond to the situation, you cannot deny it. And through the way that you respond to it, it really reveals a lot about you. It reveals what you believe about yourself. It reveals what you believe about the world. And then it gives you clarity as to whether or not the way you are living right now is in alignment with who you want to be, or is the way that you're living not in alignment with who you want to be. And from that place, from that deeper level of awareness, you can actually course correct and make decisions to just be who you're meant to be and who you want to be. So I had the opportunity to like walk everyone through this like a series of different practices, and there were some men that were like in tears by the end of it, and it was really revealing to them who they are, who they want to be, and where their actions are just not aligning with who they want to be. And it just was really reaffirming that like I'm here to help men as well as women. So that's a little bit about what we did.
Amazing. Awesome. And another thing, something probably the listeners have clued in by now is that you're a great communicator. I find the way you communicate to be very powerful. It's a huge gift and an amazing tool. Where did I saw recently you won this some speaker event or something like that, right? Tell us about that. I'd like to know how you came about. Did you work on your communication? How did speak to that a little bit?
Great question. Yeah, so I've always been very charismatic. That's always been a part of who I am as a person. And people would have probably told me that I was a good communicator, but I never really considered myself that. It was definitely something that I worked on intentionally. And what I mean by that is like, because I've always naturally been charismatic, it would give this illusion of confidence. Because I would be so charismatic and so confident, people would be like, oh, like he's a good communicator because look how confident he is in communicating. But like half the time I feel like I would just talk just for the sake of talking. And there was no real depth to what I was saying. And it took me a long time to get to a point where I felt like I was actually communicating from my heart, and I was communicating what was real for me versus what I think others want from me. And winning this competition was a real testament to that, because it, the whole process of creating the speech. So in something called Speaker Slam, which is North America's largest inspirational speaking competition. And it's a 5-minute speech, and they do these competitions multiple times throughout the year. And each competition has a theme, and there's 10 speakers who compete with one another. And the topic that I spoke on was the topic of belonging. And I've been wanting to compete in Speaker Slam for a few years now, but every time that I came close to deciding, it was so scary. It was so uncomfortable, the idea of just going on stage and doing this, even though the vision that I clearly have for myself, the vision that is consistently put on my heart, is me being on stage. But I really resisted it for a long time. And so when I decided to do it, and I started creating my speech, the first iteration of it, I was like, yeah, like this feels pretty good. But then when I came back the second time around to work on it and refine it, it was really clear to me that this wasn't the message that wanted to come through. And, a lot of speakers, this is what, a professional public speaker told me, that a lot of speakers are so focused on like, I need to get my story out there. I need to get my story. I need to share my message. But what he said to me is that your message and story, it really doesn't fucking matter. What matters is like, who is the message for? Are you sharing this for you, or are you sharing this because this is what is coming through you to touch the lives of those who are listening? And that was really, without like maybe consciously realizing it, that was like my process of going. It wasn't about like me looking cool or me sharing a story that made me look awesome, which is interesting because that was the first speech I wrote. The first speech I wrote was this like really intense story of something I went through that made me look like such a badass. And then the speech that I ended up writing was talking about how my marriage fell apart and how I was the cause of that. And it was because I cheated on my partner. Like, that's what my speech of belonging was about, is talking about how not being in my integrity led to me never feeling like I belonged. And it was very exposing, but it was really clear to me that it wasn't about me. This speech wasn't about me. The message wasn't about me. It was about, like, who needs to hear this and who can this help? And that transition in my mindset around communication, I think, has been like the most liberating thing, because now it's like I get out of my own way when I'm communicating something, because I'm less concerned with how you or anyone sees me. I'm more concerned with being honest, with being real, and being helpful. I want to be helpful. And sometimes being helpful means that we're going to risk being rejected, or risk being foolish or seen as foolish, right? That shift has really brought a whole new level of authenticity in the way that I communicate. And honestly, I'm really proud of myself for that, because my reaching for people's validation has been something that I've struggled with my whole life, and I still struggle with it. I still catch myself doing things where I'm like, oh, well, that really wasn't, like, that was what I think you wanted of me. Let me course correct and really tune into what's real, what's actually on my heart. And that's a big part of what we teach our
I
clients
love
to.
that.
Right? So
I love that, to speak from a place of where things want to emerge. Like, it's like organic, coming through inside out. What is I haven't talked to you in 3 years or something.
yeah.
Who is the Roberto then? Who's the Roberto now?
What a question. Who was Roberto 3 years ago? Roberto then was very excited.
Sorry. Is the door open or something?
It's the basement. You can hear my kids upstairs.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's
Give
no way
me.
of blocking that.
I can try. I'll be right back. Give me one moment.
Okay.
Jean-Luc, Just go upstairs and it's just chaos upstairs right now.
I hear
Um,
you.
yeah, so to answer your question, who was I before? I was really excited, like just incredibly ambitious, operating in this place of relentless belief in myself, while also at the same time not feeling like I believe in myself, but choosing to do things that were indicative that I'm having faith regardless of what I see, think, or feel. Um, However, I didn't see evidence of it. It doesn't mean that there wasn't evidence of it, but I didn't see it. I didn't see evidence of my success back then. Uh, and that's I think one of the things that was the most challenging back then, leading up to now, is just not seeing how like truly successful I've always been, you know? Whereas now, I'd say the difference between that version of me and now is it's a different excited. I'm a lot more grounded. There's like a grounded excitement. There's a certainty that I feel in me right now that I didn't have back then. There's a certainty in who I am. There's a certainty in where I'm going. Um, there's a certainty in honestly, my trust in God, my trust in the universe and where I'm being led. And that feels like a really grounding and a little bit terrifying. And
What do you
another
mean? What do
big
you mean by terrifying?
terrifying because it
What's
feels
terrifying?
like what's terrifying is it's a surrender to the unknown.
Mm.
Like that's how it feels. It feels like it's this, I'm not religious. Um, and I've been religious. I've been definitely part of religion for sure. It's just my path has shifted from that now. And now my whole life is predicated around being led by God and asking myself or asking the universe, asking God, like, what is your vision for me? And since asking that question, like it feels like the vision I had was fucking small compared to the vision that the universe has for me. And so with that process of surrendering, there's a complete letting go of what I think is the path to get me to that vision. And that's been terrifying because it feels like this practice of God's like, "Yeah, okay, like you're saying you're trusting me, then like, are you really willing to let go of what other people think of you? Are you willing to let yourself look foolish? If I'm leading you here, are you actually going to follow without knowing exactly how it's going to lead you there?" And that's what's been terrifying, right? It feels like I'm walking on a balance beam blindfolded. I don't know that the step is there, but like I know the step is there because God's telling me the step is there. And every time I'm about to take the next step, I'm so scared because I can't see it. And I'm like, oh my God, this is scary. This is terrifying. And then I take the step and it's like, oh my God, of course it's there. It's always there. It just doesn't feel like it's going to be in the moment, you know? So that's what I mean by terrifying.
Man, you're just reminding me of a little thing. I have to just share this with you. Talking about stepping there, I had this 50-pound duffel bag on my shoulders. It's pouring rain. I'm in flip-flops. Foam on metal on this boat, with metal stairs. The stairs are so steep, man. The angle's probably like 80 degrees. I have this duffel bag on my shoulders. I'm with Sumaya, and I'm looking down at the step, and I'm going, if I step there, I'm like really thinking, man, I'm gonna wipe out. And like to be consciously there, knowing that, okay, I'm gonna put all my focus and attention on this step because it's wet and it's pouring rain, and to wipe out, I fell down those stairs, man. Trying to hold on to the rails. Uh, and afterwards I had this thing where I I looked at Smile. I said, I don't think I've ever put that much focus on actually knowing that I may fall and to actually fall. And I
Wow.
find sometimes there is this like, oh God, this is like an inevitable fall. Even if I put so much into it, it's like also teaching me something else, you know?
Mm, mm. Love that. Love that. I can definitely relate to that story, right? And it's like, and the question that immediately comes up too, it's like, well, it's like, what if in that moment there was a different focus, right? If the focus was instead of on not falling and on, I don't know, getting to the bottom safely, like, would that have happened? Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I hadn't shared that story and it was so embarrassing. I was like, oh my God, I just left like head shakes. Like, what the hell just happened, you know? The lesson the lesson was don't, you got to get better shoes.
That's a great important lesson, brother.
So when you talk about vision, you're saying that this vision is sort of God has a bigger plan for you, has a bigger vision for you. What when you say that, is it a mystery, or do you know personally, you as Roberto, do you have a vision of where you're going?
Yeah, yeah. I'm here to help co-create a world where the highest level of integrity is a global standard. That's like my North Star in everything I do. I firmly believe that the root of honestly all of our problems as a planet, as a society, is a lack of integrity. And the word
Okay,
integrity,
define that word. Yeah,
I was
okay.
just about to, yeah. The word integrity comes from the Latin root integer, which means whole, right? And so when someone is in their integrity, they are operating from a place of wholeness. And to me, wholeness is like mind, body, spirit, right? Like head and heart. And when we are in our integrity, we don't need to hurt anybody. We don't need to take away from anyone else because we are whole, right? When we're operating from a place of wholeness, we're thinking about our neighbors, right? We're thinking about the future generations because we are integrated in our wholeness. And that's the world that I'm here to help co-create. Will it happen in my lifetime? I don't know, but I'm going to do everything I can to help set up our kids and my grandkids to hopefully experience that world one day. So that's what's been revealed to me.
Hmm. Very cool. You have a story around hurting somebody
Hmm. A
as a
few.
man fighting.
Mm-hmm. I do. I do. Yeah. Yeah. That was this is the story actually that I originally was going to do my speaker slam speech on. Um and
Do you want to
I
share this with
was
us?
sure, sure, yeah. I was 14 years old and I remember there was this, one of my classmates had was known to throw like the dopest parties. And for whatever reason, she chose not to invite me. And so what I did, completely not in my integrity because I was hurt, I spread rumors about her. And when I spread those rumors, someone had added me on MSN. I don't know if anyone remembers MSN, but it was basically like the back in the day Facebook Messenger. And the title of like their profile said like, yo, like I just want to fuck up Roberto. And I was really confused and I started having conversation with this person and this person wanted to fight me because I had spread these rumors about their friend. And you know, back then I'd never been in a fist fight in my entire life. I was terrified. But I hung around a crowd that if you backed out of being challenged, then that was going to set you up for more long-term hurt because then you would be the person that could be pushed around. Um, It was not in my integrity to fight. I definitely did not want to fight, but I was so concerned with being seen as a wuss, as a scaredy cat, as a whatever, that I ignored that inner voice, right? And so I was like, yeah, let's fucking fight. Like, let's do this. I'm not afraid of you, behind a keyboard saying all these things. Um, and, uh, and I remember, man, like this guy, like, you know, was threatening to take his brother's gun and find me and kill me. He was telling me that his brother was gonna, you know, follow me after school and run me over with his Cadillac. And, you know, like these were some serious threats. And I didn't really tell anyone about it other than just some close friends, or close friends, right? And for those listening to the podcast, I'm putting that in quotations, because your true friends will really be revealed in times of conflict. And then, you know, one day, you know, I was, you know, hanging out with a true friend, and I got a call from this guy, and he was downstairs waiting for me to fight. And I was like, shit, okay, we're doing this. And because I'd been all summer been threatened to get shot or run over or whatever, I was really afraid for my life, and I was not going to run from the fight, but I wanted to be prepared. And so I brought with me like this massive kitchen knife. And I just tucked it in the back of my belt, just in case. I wasn't planning on using it. I didn't want to use it, but if this guy was threatening to bring a weapon, I didn't want to show up and not feel protected by any means, right? So it's me and my buddy. I go downstairs. It's him and his friend. And so we go to a park that's near my house. I remember, like, as we were walking to the park, like, my heart was racing. I was so scared. Like, I wanted to burst into tears, but, like, I didn't allow myself that. And, you know, we get to this like school playground. We look around, there's no one there. This is the space where two 14-year-olds are gonna go to war. He had a lighter in his hand, and I was like, what the fuck is that about? And apparently he's like, oh, it helps me like punch harder, right? So, and I was confused and didn't think anything of it. And then I remember my friend told the other guy, he's like, hey, like, let's go sit down and watch. And like in this very aggressive tone, like his friends looked at him and said, shut the fuck up. And then my friend just went and sat down. And so, you know, the fight starts, and like, again, this is my first time getting into a fist fight with anybody. I was, at that point, I didn't ever practice martial arts. Like, I did not know how to fight, but the only thing I do remember that I was telling myself is keep your hands up. Just keep your hands up. Keep your hands up. No matter how tired you are, just keep your hands up. I just remember my dad always telling me that if I'm in a fight, just keep your hands up. And I like, yeah, like it was so scary, but the moment the fight started, there was like zero fear because you're in it, right? There's no room like to even contemplate being afraid because you are just so in the situation. You're in the danger. And I was winning. And I remember like feeling really confident, feeling really good. And it didn't last very long. It lasted, I think, like a minute. I got a few more hits than he did. And then all of a sudden, the other dude who was with him punched me in the back of the neck. And I remember feeling like stuck in this like neck cranked position. And next thing I know, both of them are rushing me and they're just trying to beat me up. And in the scramble, I don't remember much. I remember hearing like one of them say like, get him, and as they're both just trying to like, yeah, beat on me. And next thing you know, I'm standing up straight with this knife I brought, and I'm going like, what the fuck are you thinking? And both of them were like kind of on their asses. And the guy who hit me in the back of the neck, who was supposed to be just watching the fight, looked at his arm and he had this like huge gash on his forearm. Like I remember seeing the bone in his forearm, and it was a massive cut. And they looked at me and looked at his arm, and as they walked away, said, "You're dead." And I remember at the time feeling like really shocked because I'm like, I didn't do that. Like, I'm pretty sure I would know if I stabbed someone. But it all happened so fast. And for the next probably 5 years, I never felt safe. I would walk around with weapons on me all the time. If I was out in public, I could not relax because I was so afraid of bumping into these guys. And like every time I bumped into them, whether it was at school, whether it was on the bus, like they jumped me, they rushed me, they robbed me. Like I lived in survival, like terror mode all the time, constantly looking over my shoulder. And that's why I started training martial arts at 17, which it really saved my life because it was the first time in my life where I didn't feel like I needed a weapon to feel safe. And you know, I used to regret that situation. I used to tell myself like if only I just took the beating and didn't stab the guy, that would have saved me years of heartache. But it's not about taking the beating. It's about listening to my own heart and my integrity and not giving a fuck what anyone thinks about that and standing up for myself and what I believe about myself, period. Because if I had done that from the beginning, I wouldn't have even entertained the fight. I wouldn't have even spread those rumors because I wouldn't have given a shit that I wasn't invited to this person's party, right? Like that's the lesson, is to really put my validation of myself first and foremost and recognize my own worth. And that seems to be like the core wound of all the people that I serve and all the people that I'm here to help, is this putting their worth outside of themselves, which causes us to do things that we later regret that aren't even in alignment with who we are, right? So it's interesting, like talking about it right now, I'm just like realizing like how closely related like my wound of like wanting to be accepted by everyone and wanting everyone's validation is, how closely related that is to my mission of creating integrity, you know? So yeah, thank you for asking me that. I haven't talked about that story in a long time. Oh, you're muted, brother. Oh, for some reason you're muted again. You were unmuted and then you muted yourself. There we go.
Hello?
There we go.
Okay. Curious to know, like, if your son was 14, and was going to go through that situation in a similar way that he had, what would be the advice you would give him?
Holy shit. Wow, what a question, man. No one's ever asked me that. To put myself in the father position of that's so intense to think about. What would I do in this situation? I really like I'll share like my first thoughts, but that's a question that will really require me to really think about and really feel into. But if I were to come up with an answer on the spot, and let's say this.
Take a breath, you could take a breath, you could take a little moment of silence here.
Sure. In my situation, the thing that never happened is there was no opportunity for closure after I stabbed the guy. Because for years, all he wanted was to get back at me. And he never once like got back at me after the situation had happened. It was always his friends. His friends would jump me. His friends would see me and be like, "Oh my God, there's Roberto. Let's go fuck him up and steal his phone and steal his ring and whatever." But the first guy who initially caused the whole thing, how that became resolved is when, he saw me on a bus once, jumped me with a bunch of his friends, beat me up on the bus. And then I called like, some of my friends. I called my dad and I said, "Hey, meet me at this bus stops because like, this is the situation." And so they met me at the bus stop and when all those dudes who jumped me got off, I didn't care about all the people. I just wanted to face the dude who started this. And now that we were on even ground where I'm not alone, like I have people to have my back. So if they were all going to try to fight, then we had an entire group of people that were going to fight with me. But I didn't want that to happen. I just wanted to handle this one dude. And I told him like, hey man, like we're going to face each other. We're going to do this. We're going to go to war. But no matter what happens after this, it's done. If you win, I win, doesn't fucking matter. It's over. And after that situation, him and I were good. Like, it's not like we were friends, but like we were good. I saw him multiple times since then. But I never experienced that with the other dude. Even to this day. Like, to this day, I wish that I could see him. So I could just, like, yeah, like create some resolution there, you know, for us. Because I haven't seen him since all of that happened. So, if let's say, you know, one of my sons, this happened to where they were in the exact same situation. They had the fight and they stabbed the guy. I would do everything I can to help him create a setting to create resolution. And honestly, it might not be through words. It actually might be through violence, but it would be through violence where they both would walk away. And I would make sure that if that was the only way to create resolution here, that they both leave with their dignity intact and they both leave safe. And I'm not here like condoning that kids fight and do this and, you know, but sometimes like, I'm of the mind that, I'm always going to do everything I can to solve my problems with words. I've been gifted with the ability to communicate, and there are some times where if someone consistently gets in my face, I'm going to smash their fucking head open to really get my message across. And sometimes that actually is appropriate. Sometimes that's the only way to get my message across, to be able to protect me and the ones I love. And I'm willing to go there. I don't need to go there. I haven't gone there in so many years, and I'm so grateful for that. And I hope to never actually have to go there. And I have the capacity to. And so I would do whatever I can to help my sons find a way to create resolution. If it's through words, amazing. If we can avoid violence, great. And if there is no way to avoid being violent, then I would need to find a way to support him to do that. And my dad, even he tried to do that with me when he picked me up from school one day, and there was 20 people waiting to jump me at the end of school, and like he fucking lost it and was like, yo, like all of you like are here trying to jump this one guy. Like you two should just fight one on one, but you're being a fucking coward and like won't face him because of whatever reason. Like I don't care if you beat him to a pulp, at least it's fair and you both walk away. Like he tried to do that, but I was too afraid. I was like so scared, and there was no way I was going to allow myself to embarrass myself in front of the school at the time. But if I were to redo it, I would have got out and I just would have faced it and just gone to war and see what would have happened, and walked away. And you know what? It would have been done after that. Even if he won or whether I won, we would have faced each other, and we wouldn't and honestly, maybe we would have been friends after that. Who knows, right? Because I find when you go to battle with someone like that, there's like a level of respect that you tend to share, you know? So that's my immediate thoughts and answers. Yeah, I try to help them resolve
Roberto,
it in an
no, that's so great. Like I'm so happy you went there. It's something that's really alive, especially for men, you know. Where does violence come into play? I'm in a third world country, you know, I've been here for 3 years. Shit reveals itself very quickly when you're surrounded by people in survival. In the
mm,
modern world, we're here with all this privilege, and we don't realize the safety that we're currently in, you know. And we can talk a lot of spiritual lingo of stuff, you know, and oneness, and you know, we can resolve. But when people are in survival mode around you, and they're willing to steal without any remorse, they're willing to hurt without any remorse, it changes the game. You see the darkness and you go, whoa, how am I to deal with this? You know, I went to a meeting with the head of police here, thinking, okay, how do we resolve a community thing? Because I'm building a home here, right? So I'm like, how do we resolve certain things? And it was like, this guy keeps robbing people. Like, the police can't do anything about it. Talking about it doesn't work. What is there left to do?
Mm,
And it really brings into question a lot of dark stuff.
totally.
And this is where you start to see, like, oh, okay, maybe violence is warranted.
Mm,
Maybe shame is warranted
mm,
in certain situations,
mm,
right? You can use violence or you can use shame. And it's like, oh, and then it brings into question, oh, all of society. And, once you do accept that this is part of human nature in a way, then you look at sort of the construct of society in a different way of going, ah, okay, like religion, using shame, using all these rules.
mm.
It's like, oh, it really calls into question a lot of things once you reveal survival of the human being, and these situations that you're in where you say, okay, there's a self-protection that is needed for me, for my family,
Yeah.
and I'm willing to go there.
Yeah.
Like, wow, what that just really hits reality, all ideologies go out the window.
Totally.
You start thinking about chopping hands off,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
So I'm happy you're bringing this up because this has been sort of like a big theme looking at it for me,
Mm.
and looking at how a lot of people express a lot of things that are sort of ideologies, but deep down it's like you don't know. It's like privilege is unseen to those that have it. It just,
Well said.
and they
That's
don't.
Yeah, I was just gonna say
Yeah.
that is so intense, and the idea of, like what I hear people say to that is, well, you need to find a way to like give them love and send them forgiveness. And I'm all about love and forgiveness. And I really do believe that that's the answer. And you need to be able to stand up for what's important to you, to protect what's important to you. And if the only way to do that is to be violent, then yeah, like it's important to know that we as men have the capacity to go there, This is why I love martial arts and why I think it's so important. But the danger of this world, right? Like that's what I experienced when that whole fight happened is I remember the first person I called after I stabbed the guy, I called my dad and he said, well, look, one of two things are going to happen. They're either going to leave you the fuck alone because they're like, whoa, we're not going to fuck with that guy, or they're going to try to get back at you. And that's a real truth to really contemplate, right? Like if like in your situation with the Rob guy, if you cut his hand, like, yeah, those are the two like paths that could happen. And that's scary to contemplate, to think like, whoa, like, am I willing to now like open up this whole other possibility of death and torture? Oh my God. It's like, am I willing to go there? Because then once you do that, now the question is am I willing to go to literally the like death? It's like, I'm willing to fucking kill you and I'm willing to face the fact that you actually might try to kill me. That's intense. That's intense. And when someone's really willing to go there, it's scary. People typically don't fuck with that, but there are people who live there all the time who are like, I face death on a daily basis. I laugh at it. Let's go. And that's a scary person.
Right. And you know what that garners? A lot of respect, I find. Because
Totally.
because one thing I can say from where I'm at and where we are in the modern world is that actually, to me, respect is leaving somebody alone, like allowing them to be who they are. And I think when
Wow.
I look at it, I've just been, if we look if we go to a scale, if we take it to the extreme and we go to prisons and hoods where these types of people exist,
Mm.
the people you just mentioned, those environments, there's no room for disrespect. right?
Mm.
And if you go, if you've been, I've worked in prisons before, so I can say firsthand, the experience is that you just stay in your lane. That's how you survive. Stay in your lane, do your thing. Don't try to interfere with another guy's business. Just stay in your lane. I've been thinking about this because here there's a lot of that between men. You don't feel this, but when you have this privilege, this sort of illusion, this illusion of toughness, right? And all of a sudden it's like, oh, somebody runs their mouth, a guy will just run their mouth and say whatever, and you just feel like, man, like you're gonna get your ass kicked. Like you've
Mm-hmm.
just never, and there's something really refreshing about being at that low humanness that also involves a lot of respect, man to man. And I think it comes down to that same feeling we get when we do martial arts,
Mm.
like when we fight each other, and when you're sparring and you got your ass kicked, you're like, okay, man, this guy's better than me.
Mm.
I know where I stand, and it's like, it's refreshing. Like you said, if you would have resolved that conflict, and your dad, man, what a gift that you had your dad in your life to talk to, by the way. But
Totally.
but as you were saying, like the resolve, it's like when we fight each other, we feel there's a resolve.
Yeah.
Okay, whether I win or I lose, I know where I stand. We are still animals that are dominant and submissive at our
Yeah.
core.
Yeah.
And we have a hierarchy. And if another man's more dominant, okay, man, respect. If I'm more, you'll respect. But there's a respect that becomes clear in the
Totally.
fight.
Totally. Yeah. And even if the person is more dominant or less dominant, there's still a respect in both men being willing to be like, I'm gonna fucking step up and face this, and we're just gonna do this together, right? Even if I was the more dominant one, we leave with this often with this respect of each other, and yeah, yeah. Thank you for the reflection of how lucky I was that my dad was there to support me. I am incredibly blessed that he was able to support me through that. He's awesome, and I'm just really, really grateful for that. And even the question you asked me about putting myself in his position around what I would do, like what a thing to contemplate. Oh my God. Um, because I can imagine for him, like, it must have been difficult to not, like, beat the fuck out of these 14-year-old kids who are threatening his kid's life, Like, but also knowing that that's obviously not the answer, right? That's not the answer to fight my battles for me. It's about teaching me how to fight my own battles, and that's what I want to teach my sons, how to fight his own battles, and how like you need to face. Like, I teach this to Jordan all the time. Like you need to be willing to step into the discomfort, because through that process you discover who you are, and running away from it is not the answer. Through, it's always through, and you get to decide what that line is. Sometimes it might be a bit too much, that's okay, but recognize that the answer is through. Running is yeah, it's not the way.
Yeah, I found it interesting that when I asked you that question, you didn't go to the before it happened. You didn't talk about before, you didn't talk about the party and the gossip, and you didn't talk about, leaving the house and going to the park. You talked about afterwards,
Yeah.
like you're not going to interfere with what's meant to be,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
You didn't say, okay, I would tell him not to bring a knife. It's
Mm.
just like, no, it's just afterwards.
Yeah.
If you were to set a fight with that guy today, would you like that? Would you go for it?
Oh my God, that's such a, I mean, in some ways, like, I mean, don't get me wrong, the like warrior in me is curious. You know what I mean? Like, I'm curious. I'm super curious. And at this point in my life, no, like, I wouldn't meet up with the guy to fight. I would meet up with him to resolve it. And like, if that, like, I would go in with the intention of, dude, like, my intention is to hug you and to say I'm sorry and to clean this up, with in whatever way I can. And even
Then
if
he
he tried to
shoves you.
hit me, yeah, if he shoves me, I would start walking away. Really, I would do everything I can to walk away. But if I was in a corner and I had no choice but to fight, I would fucking do everything I can to tear him apart. And it doesn't mean that I would win because I don't know, right? Like I've been in enough situations, I've practiced enough fighting that there's no way to know. Like I used to have such a big ego with fighting, like I'd fuck him up. Like no, he would not leave unscathed. That's for sure. And I have no idea what would actually come about if we actually did fight. But I would give it everything I got to defend myself, but I would lead with love. I would lead with forgiveness. And my heart does have a way of piercing through the bullshit that when I come with that intention, I tend to get the thing that I want. Um, so I'm really confident in my ability to talk down a situation. And if I wasn't, then yeah, it would be honestly, yeah, kind of fun to discover what was happening, you know? But I actually want to bring
So,
it to
so
entrepreneurship for a moment though, because like all this can be really tied to entrepreneurship in the sense that being an entrepreneur is one of the fucking scariest things I think any of us can do. Because we're constantly stepping into the unknown. We're constantly creating something of value out of nothing in the hopes that it's going to work out. And I think one of the most important skills as entrepreneurs is to be, so committed to the thing that we're building that the fear is not inevitable. Sorry, the fear is irrelevant. The doubt, the insecurity that comes from building a business, it's irrelevant. It doesn't fucking matter how afraid or scary it is because this mission, this vision, this business is too important. It's more important than the perceived fear that comes with starting a business or running a business.
yeah, I agree. I mean, I feel the courage is needed, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm curious, I don't want to take it in that area. I want to take it into what you're going to be building as a masculine program, the thing you're working on.
Cool.
Because the listeners listening right now are, I think a lot of my listeners are men also.
Okay.
And when we're talking this fighting energy, this violence, this rawness of who we are and what we're willing to face, what what is this? Where do you feel this program is going for you on
Mm,
on going in that direction for men?
I love
What do
this
you
question.
what do you see?
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. Yeah. So I'll answer this question. Then I do, brother. I do got to hop off. But just know, I would love to do this again with you. This was so fun. I did not expect us to talk about what we saw, what we talked about today. But I mean, that's like every conversation I have with you, right? It goes in such a cool direction. So thank you for this, man. Um,
And I just have to say I have two questions before you go. I have
got
two
it.
questions I ask
Got
every
it.
guest. So
Got it.
keep it
Got it.
short.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'll keep this concise then. So the program is going to be called Awaken the King. And really, what I want to walk men through is a process that I've been creating over years. And it's a process designed to help you become the men that you've been trying to become. And it's so cool because the way that it's laid out is it takes the guesswork of how to become that person. Because I've been noticing a theme from, some of the most ancient texts to some of the most sought after personal development books on the planet. And they all have a theme and they all have a thread. And there was something that clicked this year where I just noticed a pattern. And through that, I created a process that I've been putting myself through for years, but it wasn't like intentional in the sense that it wasn't like step one is this, step two is this, step three is this. But now, once it became clear that this is what I've been doing, I put it into a process. And then I started experimenting with myself and really putting myself through it over and over again. And then I started putting
What
it
does it
through.
look like?
So it's I call it the 5 C's for now. There's going to be even refinement there. The first thing is clarify what you want, which is honestly asking yourself the question, what do you want, is one of the most difficult questions to really ask yourself. right? It's surprisingly difficult for most people. The second C is confront the darkness. You need to confront all the stories, all the insecurities that have been getting in the way of you actually of actually claiming what you want. The third C is create your new identity. And this piece is what most people, I think, are actually missing, is we need to attach a whole new identity in who we are in order to claim the thing that we want. If we want behavioral change, you need to create an identity change, right? The fourth C is condition your mind and body. So once you're clear on what you want, you've started letting go of the shit that's been getting in the way, and you're clear on who you need to become to have what you want, you need to start to condition your mind and body to be that person, right? And I say condition really intentionally, just like how you would condition an animal. You need to condition your mind to think like the person you want to be, and condition your body to feel the feelings associated with being that person. I used to just focus on mindset. I used to just focus on conditioning my mind, but it wasn't enough, because I could tell myself all day, I'm wealthy, I'm a badass, but I felt poor. I felt broke. And that was a misaligned signal, right? Out of integrity. I was not in wholeness. So you need to learn how to condition your mind and body to speak the same language. And then the last C is consistency. You need to take consistent action on these steps. And not only just on the steps of conditioning your mind and body, but you need to start taking consistent action that is in alignment with the new identity that you've chosen to adopt, which is deeply uncomfortable for most people. That's why it's consistent action. And when you take consistent action from the place of who you're becoming, that is literally you integrating it. And so that's the process, that's the formula. And we've been walking our Firestarter clients through it, and the results have been phenomenal, and experiencing it myself, it's been phenomenal. So, and there's a whole, like it's not as simple as, hey, we're going to do this in like a one session. No, like it's a fucking process. And I tell people, like, if you commit to doing this over the course of the next year, 2 years, 3 years, you will claim the rest of your life. Because it's not going to take you, if someone's 40, it's not going to take them 40 years to undo all the trauma, insecurities, and doubts to get to a place of empowerment. No, it's not going to take you 40 years. It'll always be faster to create change than what it took you to get there in the first place. But people want it so quickly, they want it now, that they don't give themselves long enough to create a lasting change. Right? Give yourself 1 to 5 years of dedicated work to transform your identity, to transform yourself, and you will claim the rest of your life. That is like fundamentally everything that I teach, because I don't want people coming into, Awaken the King. I think it's going to be about an 8-week program where I'm teaching them the fundamentals, but I don't want them to think that, hey, like 8 weeks and then that's it. It's like, no, like what we do in the 8 weeks is important, but what you do after is what's most important. Because if you don't do anything with this, it doesn't fucking matter the shit that we did in these 8 weeks. You've got to integrate this and literally make this a part of who you are for this to last. So that's the process.
I love it. And you say to integrate this. And to me, integrity, you had your definition of integrity. To me, it's integrity and the word integrate are very similar at the root. And it's to integrate. The integrity is to integrate these new beliefs that you believe, to actually do it. And some people read a book, they don't do anything. They do a program, they don't do anything with it. What's the point? You got to be able to live it. Anyways, okay, two things. One, what is the most important book that has impacted your life? One or a few of them?
Most important book that has impacted my life. Definitely Think and Grow Rich is one of them for sure, because that's what started to get me on that was the book that connected the dots. It was like the third time I read it. It was this year, and that's what started to connect the dots between everything I've been doing over the past few years to help me come up with the formula that I just shared. And there's another book. The other book is
That's good, man.
I got one more though for the men out here, and it's The Masculine in Relationship by G.S. Youngblood. It's one of the best books on masculinity I've ever read. It basically takes like the way of the superior man and brings it down to earth. Like it makes it a very tangible way of implementing the practices in the way the superior man. It's an amazing book.
Okay. And if you had one, also, is there any documentary that you've seen that has really impacted you? Could be anything.
A documentary that has really impacted me. There was one that I watched recently that I found really inspiring, but I'm not remembering what it is. So I'm gonna say no, not really.
Okay. If you had the opportunity to send a message to every device, every screen, every TV, every computer, every phone in the world for all of humanity, what would that message be to them?
Yeah, right now, with especially with where I'm at, the message would be, what do you want? And my hope in asking them that question is that they would make it a practice of asking themselves that question. What do I want? What do I want? What do I really want? What do I want? Because that's been life transforming for me, is integrating that question into my everyday.
Incredible. Awesome. I love it. And thank you so much, Roberto, for coming on. And man, I had such a blast. We could speak for another 2 hours, so we'll have to have you back at some point. I'm gonna keep doing episode after episode and meet you at the 100+ episode mark.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Thank you, man, for this opportunity. And I have so much love for you, brother, and what you're doing and who you are as a person. You just give such permission for people to be themselves by the way that you model that. And I've always loved that about you. So thank you for this opportunity to serve together, to connect together. And I'm looking forward to doing it again, brother.
Amazing. Love you, bro. Okay, talk soon.